Fantastic. Hey, so for a bit of fun, and I'm doing the same with all these different ones. It's trying to find, I'm going to some reputable sources. I think I went to some of the digital marketing surveys, IBIS, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Deloitte.
Yep.
I'm looking at some. I just pulled a whole bunch of interesting stats, facts, and figures from some credible sources. It's not so much where they've come from. I want to quickly bounce through them with you to see not whether and go, hey, this is what it is. It's actually to get your finger on the pulse and go, yeah, that's right. And maybe just to quickly think about, well, if that's the case, what's something we could do with that, right? So if we'll bounce through this pretty punchy.
Yep.
80% of users on social media prefer video content to anything else.
Agree.
Yeah. So therefore, therefore, what do you do with that?
Yeah, it's just so much easier. Yeah, it's just so much easier to consume, right? Yeah. The downside to video is it's harder to create. So the value that you get out of consumption, you lose in creation. Right?
Yeah,
so
right.
Yeah, there is a trade-off there.
There's a trade-off, but definitely worth doing more video content.
Yeah.
That's where I think we see this vacuous repetition of that, like time in to make it high impact, right, guys? Podcasts for content are also on the rise. Whereas 91% people consuming videos, 40% now are consuming podcasts. Now, I remember a stat to do with that a couple of years ago. Don't hold me over the web, but it was maybe 15 to 18%. Now it's 40.
Yeah.
So that's suggesting podcasts are also on the rise.
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
Yeah, I agree again. And it's about, that consumption of easy to consume media. People don't want to read. So if they can listen, like if someone can jam, words into their ear for them, it's just helping them consume, more content, and they'll filter out what they don't need. That's what I do as well. And I take what I do need. So I've been consuming, more podcasts, than what I would normally as well.
I'll come back to that. People don't read, because obviously we won't go there right now. Let's punch through these. 40 hours a week on average now spent online. Now, I actually have to say, when I found that one, and I can't remember which of those, which are PDC or Deloitte, I actually thought that was an underestimate, if anything, right? But I'm sure you have stats and figures on usage. What's the ones you've got access to lately? What's the kind of usage lately?
Yeah, so this average number, has a skew by age. So the younger demographic would be spending more, and the older demographic would be spending less. So some of the numbers.
So maybe I'm seeing myself in the younger category and demographic, right?
Maybe. Yeah. So, have you got the screen time thing on your phone? Like,
no, I don't really use it, but yeah.
So you have an alert in Apple that says how much screen time you've spent on average every day. And like 4.5, 5 hours, I've seen some people just with their phone in their face in a day. So 40 hours a week seems light for me in terms of online consumption. 1 in 3 minutes that we do spend online. So every 3 minutes we're spending 1 of every 3 is on social media specifically. The other 2 is the other stuff like search engines and. Yeah, I read something the other day around, I'm not sure what it's called. It's like the dead scroll or something like that. But when people want to be purposely distracted, they'll go to social and literally just scroll and they're not consuming anything. It's just this dead scroll. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's something like that, where they're just sitting there like with their newsfeed scrolling past, I mean, it makes me think of the Dead Sea Scrolls, right? It's dead, I'm seeing it, but I'm just scrolling, right? The Dead Sea Scroll. Right? So, 98%. It's probably called something totally different, but anyway, it's the Dead Scroll for me. Make me think of that. 98% of users now via mobile, which really, I mean, that's massive. So that's now really hammering home the point. You've got to be thinking mobile first on whatever you're doing, right? Website and all the rest. Is that what you're seeing with the digital? You get 98% across. Again, it's different to, if you're a professional services company and your customers are in a professional services environment, they're spending more time in front of a desktop. If you're a trade services customer, a business, then most of your customers are on mobile, so it is dependent. Fashion, is first point of exposure on mobile, but a lot of the conversion point happens on desktop because they want to, see a bigger image, for instance. Right. The higher considered purchases typically happen on desktop. Got it. So the lower considered lowered considered purchase because there's less risk will happen on a mobile.
Aha. Interesting. Good. That's why we're having this. It provokes those extra bits of insights to think. I love these next two, and there's no surprise. I'd completely buy in. 62% of Australian users specifically express concern of what's real versus what's fake on what they're seeing on their social stuff. That's high, right? 62%. Yeah. Well, is this real or fake? I mean, and we hear it all the time, but how do you, I guess my question there, what makes me think there is, what's something you can make sure you then do to make sure you're not being seen and being bucketed straight away in that, well, that's bullshit or fake or it's made up or it's embellished? What can you be doing to make sure that what you're doing is, I know one of the answers is actually be authentic and be real.
That's what I was going to say.
Right? I get that. I do that. But then this is also that piece of perception. Let's say on top of that, is there anything else that you can see that you can be doing to make sure that that cuts through when such a high percentage already kind of suspicious?
Yeah. So customers want to see other customers' experiences to help them. So recommendations and referrals of the past are now reviews of current and future. Yeah. So you won't call your friend and say, oh, how did you go at that restaurant? You'll just go to Facebook or Google and you'll check the reviews. And if they check out enough and they look legit enough, that'll be enough for you, right?
Got it. I mean, this is why we can have a long debate, but that's why Uber Butler made what he did, though, being able to fake those reviews and ramp up a restaurant that didn't even exist. It was his garden shed.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's not the norm, you know, that's the outlier, right?
Got it. That's hijack. Anyway, 63% of companies or businesses concerned with how, 63% of users concerned with how companies or businesses will use their personal data. And I think that's one that's rising, right?
Yeah.
It seems to be all the cases. So again, is there things that you could suggest that companies can do to give people encouragement? The obvious one, again, and I know I do it, I don't use data. I've got a custom built academy, you put things in, we don't use that at all. In fact, if anything, I under contact people by a mile. Yeah. But what else can you be doing to make sure people know that you are being respectful?
Yeah. So if it's an e-commerce, you know, have encryption, have secure systems, allow a multitude of different payment solutions so that you're not storing the data. The payment solution provider is storing that data. Don't ask for information that you don't need. Don't put your business at more risk than it needs to be at. And have someone build you a general terms of service that you adhere to, that you can share with your customers to give them confidence that you aren't going to misuse their data.
Yeah, nice. Some very practical tips there. 1 in 2 customers using now a form of ad blockers.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Or deleting. Again, it was from, I made a list. It was from a whole bunch of these Deloitte, PwC, Australian Business Stats, and all this sort of stuff. So they're fairly credible. I was just curious if you've been experiencing that, or if you've
so Apple have taken that to the next level, you know, through Safari, you know, making ad blockers available by default, where some of the other browser systems are, you know, owned by Google, so they don't want to delete that information. But I think ads and display ads are losing their value if they're not served relevantly. But I think on the flip side, you know, as marketing gets more personalized, blocking that communication with the customer can take away from your brand experience as well.
Right.
So we speak to a lot of, front end customers that actually kind of enjoy the personalization that they get through display. Like if you go to Culture Kings, for instance, like their funnel, I find to be quite enjoyable. Like, you know, if I'm looking to buy a pair of Nike Air Max shoes and I don't buy them, then, you know, they're showing me different variants of that particular, you know, product that I've seen. If that was taken away, that would significantly impact, I think, on the likes of Culture Kings or Nike by not getting that purchase.
Yeah, cool. Email marketing still a bedrock.
Yeah, comes down to quality at the end of the day. I mean, less and less emails are being opened. Like that's a fact.
I was curious about that one for that reason. I know, and I think that would definitely do the relationship. If you've got a real relationship with a business and you actually respect them, you're more inclined to read and open. I get it, because the majority I get is just crap spam. I don't even look at it.
Yeah.
They just go straight to
it comes down to quality, comes down to how connected your customers are with your brand and your business, and the subject line's almost everything these days.
Yeah. Here's two that I've just kind of fun that we'll wrap on. There was a comment, and this was through a Smart Company piece that was written by one of the gurus there, and it was a pretty solid piece, but there was a comment, and it's not an exact quote, but it was something along the lines of, those without marketing automation are not going to be able to compete. They're not going to be able to compete. What do you make of that? Because that's an interesting one, right? That's like this heavy, I kind of get it. Part of my brain goes, yeah, I get it. But part of it, if you over automate, there's a danger with digital, because it's been the default for so long. A lot of the work I'm doing is actually now finding a balance of human connection, human touch, not over automating for the sake of it.
Yeah.
What's your take on that? Those without marketing automation can't or won't compete.
It depends on your business model, mate. You touched on it, perfectly. We, as a business, for our own sales cycle, we don't do a huge amount of automation. We do a huge amount of personalization.
Yeah.
We don't want tens of thousands. We don't even want 1,000 customers. We want 200 great customers. So, that one-to-one experience, the personalization of communication, the personalization of proposal, the personalization of strategy, and that experience to deal with that one person all the way through, and then getting a whole team of people on your campaign, takes away from the need for us to automate a lot of that sort of communication. But if you're Kogan or Catch of the Day, absolutely, there's significant gains around data segmentation and audience development, and and they can go down to ridiculously high level of detail and automation, and that helps their business scale and volume. So there's just different business models.
You're not looking at them in isolation. I get that. It's a very valid point. It was just a talking point, and it ties in. They're saying the same piece, the same article actually was talking about how 80% of consumers would engage with businesses that personalize them. And then you can, that's kind of to your point there. I think it's layering these together.
Personalized automation. So personalized automation is going to be a huge growth area in the future, and a huge growth area for now. So if you can get that personalized automation working well, then I think that's...
Well, we're seeing that. And I think though that definitely, but because technology gets so smart, I've done a couple of talks on this lately, actually, as keynotes. Technology gets smart, and for big companies can invest. There's great technology that does that very well. That said, as a consumer, I also now know that there's technology that does that very well, and you can still, like anything there's a big difference between evidence of human thought and human touch than automation. Just adds value in a whole different way. And I think that's a level that you really want to still be mindful of, no matter how much you automate, even if you can automate and personalize, to still have that evidence of absolute human thoughts, human connection, human touch. It takes up the Richter. One final one, because I think it's kind of cute. Colors and themes matter, right? And I know, like, we talk to people, and I remember when I've designed my LMS and built that and building out my app, and the developers that are working with, we're always talking about the blues, and they quite like the fact my brand had this blue in it, because they're saying how blue a lot of tech companies, and if you look at them, they got these blues. But colors and themes matter, and apparently for 2020, they are neo mint, whatever neo mint is, but it's new mint, mellow yellow, and cassis. And is that, your wall behind you has got a kind of bordering on a slight touch of cassis there, Ryan. What do you make of that?
I've never heard of the color cassis. I'm assuming neo mint is a like a fluoro greeny color.
It's like a green. It's like a tight green, but cassis is like an off lilac.
Okay.
Like cassis is like a raspberry strawberry, but an off lilac, a softer version of that.
Yeah, it probably is.
Mellow yellow. But I'm just curious. I mean, you guys, do you get asked about this? Do you find there's a trend when you're designing? Is there color themes that you're finding?
Yeah, I think colors do matter, from a conversion perspective as well. So if you want someone to stop, then use red buttons. If you want someone to, submit, then you want to use, a lighter yellowy sort of color. So we use different colors to invoke different actions with different button colors. We do, lots of different tests on landing pages, and, often color, does play a big part in that sort of subconscious conversion. I don't know why. I haven't looked at the psychology behind it, but
well, yeah, we could have a whole conversation. I mean, I could relate to the colors to do with chakras, emotional state, and all of that at play. But I think there's so many layers to that. I was just curious how this piece was talking about there's very much trends of themes of colors for themes to get out. But right now, mellow yellow, neo mint.
Yeah, love it.
When I see you next, man, I'll see the website updated. I know you've been taking on board what I'm saying.
It'll be Casey.
Just digital eagles with a slight flavor, right?
Yeah.